Just one homemade mix, and tomatoes explode with fruit. Stop scrolling for just 1 second. Because what I'm about to tell you might genuinely make you angry, and it's going to save you a lot of money. The $40 fertilizer sitting in your garage right now? The one with the scientifically proven claim printed in bulk, and the company that sold it to you already knows that. I spent over $200 last season on fertilizers, bloom boosters, calcium sprays, and soil amendments. $200. And at the end of that summer, I had beautiful, lush, perfectly green tomato plants with almost nothing to show for it. Half the blossoms dropped before setting fruit. The fruit that did form rotted from the bottom up. And I stood in my garden on a quiet August morning, coffee in hand, genuinely baffled. Meanwhile, my neighbor, a retired school teacher with zero formal gardening experience, was pulling armloads of tomatoes off her plants every single week. Her secret cost her less than $2. When she finally told me what it was, I stood in her driveway feeling like an absolute fool. Stay with me all the way to the end of this video, because by the time we're done, you're going to look at your garden and your grocery bill in a completely different way. It was a Tuesday morning in early July, one of those slow summer mornings that feels like it was made for slowing down. I was sitting on the back porch with a pour-over coffee, the kind where you control every single pour, one slow, deliberate stream at a time, watching the early light filter through the oak tree at the edge of the yard. My old wooden table had that warm amber glow it gets when the sun hits it just right. My leather notebook sat open to a blank page. My copper watering can stood in the corner like it always does, patient and unhurried. Everything in that little backyard garden felt calm and right. Then I looked over at the tomato bed. The plants I had been growing from seed, watered every morning without exception, fertilized on schedule, pruned exactly the way every gardening video told me to, were standing there green and tall and full. Gorgeous, honestly. But completely, utterly bare. A cluster of yellow blossoms had dropped off earlier that week without setting a single fruit. The few tomatoes that had managed to form were barely the size of a golf ball and already showing that creeping brown rot spreading up from the bottom. The plants looked healthy, but something underneath was quietly failing. And here's the thing, I know I'm not the only one who has stood in their garden feeling this exact way. You did everything right. You followed the instructions on every label. You showed up every single morning. You cared. And yet the results just weren't there. That feeling isn't just frustrating. For a lot of us, it's also expensive. The average home gardener in the U.S. spends $80 to $150 every season on tomato-specific products alone. Some people spend more. And when those products don't deliver, when you're still buying grocery store tomatoes at $5 a pound while your own plants sit there beautiful and empty, that stings in a very specific way. I've been exactly where you are. And what I discovered after that July morning changed everything about how I garden. Here's the uncomfortable truth, that a multi-billion-dollar fertilizer industry doesn't print on their packaging. More fertilizer does not mean more tomatoes. In fact, for most backyard gardeners, more fertilizer means fewer tomatoes, worse flavor, more disease, and a whole lot more money spent chasing problems that the fertilizer itself created in the first place. I know that sounds harsh, but this isn't a theory. It's documented soil biology, published by researchers at Cornell University, Oregon State, and confirmed by the USDA's own plant nutrition studies. It just never made it onto the back of a bag of Miracle Grow. For years, I operated on logic that seemed completely reasonable. If I want more fruit, I feed the plant more. The most expensive product, the biggest NPK numbers, the most convincing label, I mixed liquid bloom boosters every 2 weeks. I sprayed foliar feeds at the exact dosage the manufacturer recommended. I even bought a separate calcium supplement after the first round of blossom end rot. Each time, the plants looked good. The numbers looked good. The results didn't. And here's why, and this will reframe everything you think you know about growing tomatoes. Healthy garden soil isn't an inert growing medium. It is alive. 1 single tablespoon of thriving soil contains more living organisms than there are people on Earth. Billions of bacteria, fungi, and microbes that exist for one purpose: to unlock the nutrients already trapped in your soil and deliver them, for free, directly to your plant's roots. These microorganisms are your real fertilizer. They were always your real fertilizer. But when you apply high-concentration synthetic chemicals to your soil season after season, you don't just feed the plant, you take over the job of the entire microbial community. And when microbes no longer have a job to do, they die off. The soil goes quiet, goes dead, and your plant becomes completely dependent on whatever you pour into it next, like a system that has forgotten how to sustain itself. That dependency is not a side effect. For some companies, it's the whole business model. Let me give you the real science behind why your tomatoes are struggling, and I promise to keep this straightforward. The first problem is blossom drop. Your flowers bloom beautifully, then fall off before they ever set fruit. Most people blame the heat, or the wind, or bad luck. The actual culprit in the majority of cases is magnesium deficiency. Magnesium is the central atom in every single chlorophyll molecule in every leaf on your plant. Without adequate magnesium, your plant cannot complete the biochemical process of pollination and fruit set. The flowers come, the flowers go. Nothing stays. The second problem is blossom end rot. That black, sunken, leathery rot spreading across the bottom of your tomatoes, the one that ruins a fruit you waited 6 weeks to see ripen. The entire gardening industry sells calcium supplements as the fix. Calcium sprays, calcium granules, calcium everything. Dr. Elaine Ingham, a soil ecologist at Oregon State University, who has spent more than 4 decades studying soil biology, named this entire network the soil food web, a living, breathing, constantly negotiating ecosystem that governs everything a plant can and cannot do. Her research from the 1990s showed something the agricultural industry had largely chosen to ignore. The health of your soil biology is the single greatest predictor of crop yield and fruit quality, more so than fertilizer, more so than plant variety, more so than any product in any bottle. Fix the biology and everything else follows. Now here is the recipe. This is the $2 mixture that changed everything for me. Tested and refined across 3 full growing seasons. Every ingredient is here for a specific scientific reason, and understanding why each one works is what will make the difference between someone who gets results once and someone who knows exactly what they're doing every single season. To make approximately 2 gallons of what I call living root tonic, you need the following. 1 tablespoon of unsulfured blackstrap molasses, available at any grocery store for about $4 for a jar that lasts the entire season. 1 tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar with the mother, the cloudy bottle. Bragg's is the most common brand. 2 tablespoons of liquid worm casting tea, or a small handful of dry worm castings steeped in water overnight. Half a teaspoon of Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate, not table salt, available at any pharmacy or garden center for under $5. 1 teaspoon of finely ground, lightly toasted eggshell powder, and 2 gallons of dechlorinated water, which I'll explain in a moment. Blackstrap molasses is pure microbial fuel. It's loaded with complex carbohydrates, iron, potassium, and trace minerals that beneficial soil bacteria need to multiply rapidly. When you water this into your soil, you are essentially setting out an all-you-can-eat buffet and sending open invitations to every beneficial microbe in your garden bed. Within days, populations begin to amplify. The raw apple cider vinegar does 2 things at once. First, it gently corrects your solution's pH to between 6.2 and 6.8, the precise range where tomato plants absorb calcium and magnesium most efficiently. Second, and this is the part most people shake up and ignore, the mother, that stringy, cloudy sediment floating in the bottle is dense with live acetobacter bacteria and naturally occurring probiotics that colonize the soil and strengthen the microbial community you're rebuilding. Don't shake it, pour it. Worm castings are the heart of the recipe, and I want to be precise about why. Worm castings aren't valuable primarily because of their NPK numbers. Those are actually quite modest on paper. They're valuable because of what lives inside them. Research from Cornell University's Soil Science Department found that worm castings contain microbial populations up to 1,000 times more concentrated than standard compost. You're not adding fertilizer. You're transplanting a thriving ecosystem directly into your root zone. The Epsom salt delivers a direct, immediately bioavailable dose of magnesium to address blossom drop. Unlike granular soil amendments that take weeks to break down, magnesium sulfate in solution reaches plant roots within 1 to 2 waterings. Most gardeners who have struggled with chronic blossom drop see measurable improvement within 2 to 3 weeks of the first application. The lightly toasted, finely ground eggshell powder provides calcium in a form your plant can actually absorb. Toast clean, dry eggshells at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, then grind them as finely as possible. A spice grinder works perfectly. The toasting fractures the crystalline calcium carbonate structure, dramatically increasing surface area so the calcium dissolves and becomes plant-available far faster than raw ground shells. This is slow-release calcium that works with your soil biology, not against it the way fast-acting lime often can. Now the water. This is the step that makes or breaks everything, and it is the one almost nobody talks about. Municipal tap water is treated with chlorine and, increasingly, chloramine, the same disinfectants that kill bacteria in water pipes. Those chemicals do not distinguish between harmful bacteria in a pipe and the beneficial bacteria you are carefully rebuilding in your garden soil. Every time you water with untreated tap water, you are applying a low-grade bactericide directly to the microbial community you're trying to restore. There are 2 easy fixes. For chlorine, fill your watering can or a bucket and leave it in full sunlight for 4 hours. UV exposure and natural off-gassing neutralize chlorine completely. For chloramine, which is more common in larger cities and doesn't off-gas the same way, add 1/4 teaspoon of plain vitamin C powder, ascorbic acid per 2 gallons of water, wait 5 minutes, and the chloramine is fully neutralized at almost zero cost. To apply the tonic, stir everything together until the molasses is fully dissolved. The finished solution will be a warm amber brown with a mild, earthy sweetness. Pour 1 to 1.5 quarts directly at the base of each tomato plant, not on the foliage. Repeat every 10 days throughout the growing season. Always apply in the early morning or late afternoon, never at midday in summer heat, because high soil temperatures will kill the live microorganisms in your solution before they ever reach the roots. Total cost for a full season of applications, under $12, versus the $80 to $150 most gardeners spend annually, for worse results. Now let me set your expectations honestly, because honesty matters more in a garden than any impressive-sounding promise. You will not see dramatic results in 48 hours, and that is genuinely the best thing about this approach, because what you're building isn't a quick fix, it's a permanent one. In the first week, nothing looks different above the soil line, but below it, something real is beginning. Microbial populations start amplifying rapidly. The mycorrhizal fungi, those white, thread-thin networks that extend your plant's root reach, begin spreading outward again, accessing mineral reserves and moisture pockets that the roots alone could never find. The soil is waking up. By the second week, you'll feel the difference before you see it. Scratch the surface of the soil near the base of your plants, and it'll be looser, more crumbly, less prone to crusting after rain. That change in texture is the visible signature of microbial activity organisms secreting natural binding proteins that restructure soil into well-aerated aggregates. Air and water are moving through your garden in ways they haven't been able to in years. By the third week, new flower clusters appear noticeably larger and more robust. Blossom drop slows, then nearly stops. The pale, yellowing along leaf veins, the telltale sign of magnesium deficiency, fades and disappears. The foliage takes on a deeper, more uniform green. And then, somewhere between week 4 and week 5, comes the moment that growers who've been through this process consistently describe with the same word: overwhelming. Tomato clusters set fruit in numbers you haven't seen before. Round, firm, uncracked fruit. No blossom end rot, no splitting. Rich, even color developing as they ripen. And then you taste one. A tomato grown in living soil is a different experience entirely. Sweet and acidic, at once, layered, complex, the kind of flavor that makes you realize what you've been missing and makes the grocery store version feel like a completely different food. That flavor doesn't come from the recipe. It comes from the soil you rebuilt. Now let's talk about what this actually means financially, because the numbers are worth saying out loud. A single, healthy, well-supported tomato plant can produce 10 to 20 pounds of fruit in a season. Quality heirloom tomatoes at the grocery store are running $4 to $6 per pound right now. That's $40 to $120 of value per plant from something you grew for almost nothing. Most backyard gardeners have 4 to 8 plants. The average American family throws away $1,500 worth of groceries every year, a meaningful portion of which is produce, including the kind of tomatoes you could be growing at home. Right now, for under $12 a season. You do that math. I want to close with something that goes a little beyond the garden. When I started researching all of this, reading the soil science papers, going through the university studies, digging into the USDA reports that have been sitting there publicly available for decades, I felt something I didn't expect. Not just relief that I'd finally found an answer, but something closer to frustration, not at the science, but at the fact that none of this had ever been explained to me. Not in school, not in any of the gardening content I'd consumed for years, and certainly not by the companies selling me products at $40 a bottle. We've been handed a model of home gardening that keeps us dependent on shelves, on products, on a cycle that quietly profits from the fact that your garden never quite reaches what it should be. And the alternative, the one backed by peer-reviewed science from some of the most respected agricultural institutions in the country, has been sitting in your kitchen cabinet all along, waiting to be discovered. $2. A handful of simple ingredients, a little patience. But the deeper lesson, the one I didn't expect a tomato plant to teach me, is this. The most powerful move is often not to add more, it's to stop interfering. We live in a world that has optimized almost everything for speed and immediate results. And when a garden or a relationship or any worthwhile thing we're building doesn't respond on our timeline, the instinct is to push harder, add more, control more, force the outcome. The soil pushes back against all of that. Soil doesn't run on our schedule. It runs on the rhythm of billions of relationships, bacteria and fungi and roots and minerals and water and air, all quietly negotiating with each other in ways we're only beginning to understand. And the moment you stop overriding that system, the moment you provide what it actually needs and then step back, that's when everything changes. Not because you did more, because you stopped getting in the way. There's something a Japanese garden philosopher once wrote that I keep coming back to on slow mornings like the one I described at the beginning of this video. The gardener's job is not to make things grow. It is to remove what prevents things from growing. This tonic isn't magic. It's more like an apology to the soil ecosystem that seasons of well-meaning but misguided gardening quietly damaged, and a commitment that from here forward, you'll work with it instead of against it. Your garden is waiting, not for more product, not for more intervention. It's waiting for you to trust it and give it just a little time to show you what it's always been capable of. Here's what I want you to do right now. Before you close this video, go look at your tomato plants. Really look at them. Check the bottom of any fruit that's set. Look at the leaf veins. Count how many blossoms are holding versus dropping. Then come back here and tell me what you see. The gardeners who get the most out of this aren't just the ones who watch, they're the ones who actually try it, come back, and share what happened. Because every garden is its own ecosystem, and your results might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to finally take that first step. If this video changed the way you think about your soil, hit like it helps more people find this information who genuinely need it. If you want more content that saves you money and gets real results in the garden, subscribe. I put out new videos every week built on the same principle. Real science, practical application, no fluff. And share this with one person, a neighbor, a friend, a family member who just started a garden and is about to spend $80 on something they don't need. This information should be free. It is free. And it works. See you in the next one.